Smoothini, the ghetto Houdini himself, has been setting the stage on fire with his mind-blowing magic on America's Got Talent. From making objects vanish into thin air to producing cards out of nowhere, his tricks have left audiences stunned and judges scratching their heads. But today, we're pulling back the curtain to reveal how Smoothini pulls off his most iconic magic tricks. Trust me, you don't want to miss this one. But before we begin, be sure to smash that like button and subscribe to the channel for more great magic content. Let's start by breaking down Smoothini's iconic multiplying sponge ball illusion at number 7. This is a true sleight of hand masterclass disguised as a fun, innocent novelty trick. The routine begins with Smoothini nonchalantly producing 2 sponge balls from a soul shaker. No big deal, right? But then he has a judge hold out their hand as he visibly places one ball into his palm. The other ball goes into the judge's hand with instructions to clench it tightly. With a magical gesture, Smoothini opens his hand to shockingly reveal the sponge ball has vanished. But the real jaw-dropper comes when the judge opens their fist to find both sponge balls have somehow rematerialized. So how did this former Marine pull off such an airtight illusion? Here's exactly how this multi-phase swindle went down. Smoothini likely had both sponge balls pre-compressed into one hand from the very start through some skilled gripping gymnastics. When he performed the one ball to each hand moment, he was actually using a subtle retention pass to ditch one of the concealed sponges into the judge's hand. This meant that during the climactic reproduction phase, Smoothini simply had to open his hand to reinforce the visual impression that only one ball was there initially. The judge's hand then got open to reveal the pre-ditched duplicate, allowing the uniform sponge material to re-emerge and expand to full size. Flawless! Some of you are probably thinking, okay, but that sounds easy enough to catch if you're watching closely, and you're absolutely right. Which is why the real showmanship here lies in Smoothini's ability to choreograph all the moves flawlessly while peppering in misdirection via pattern and physical adjustments. Moving on to number 6, we've got Smoothini's hilariously repulsive pin-through-nose stunt that caused judges to break out the barf buckets. This one was so naturally gnarly yet iconic, it landed him all sorts of viral fame. Before we reveal the secret, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you can get instant notifications of new content. Now for those who missed it, the effect is simple. Smoothini calmly sticks an ordinary pin into his nostril, then subsequently pulls the same pin out of his mouth in one slick, nauseating motion. So how did he do it? As implied earlier, the effect has nothing to do with Smoothini shoving foreign objects through his nose. That'd be just plain self-mutilation rather than an impressive magical demonstration. Nah, this sickening illusion was achieved almost entirely through masterful misdirection and the creative use of body movements. See, when Smoothini initially picked up and displayed the pin from the judge's table, he went out of his way to spotlight his empty hands and establish a baseline of harmless handling to lure us into a false sense of security. Classic opening to dissolve suspicions. He then drew the pin towards his face in a motivated fashion, allowing all of our brains to automatically assume, oh, he's gonna stick that in his nose. And to an extent, that's basically what it looked like he was doing, just sticking the pin up into his nasal cavity like a maniac. But here's where the real skill came into play. By angling his hand perfectly beneath his nostrils while obscuring our direct view, Smoothini could run the pin underneath his nose while trapping the tip between his lips. This created the illusion of insertion while he safely palmed the other end. And to cap off the illusion, Smoothini simply popped the trapped pin from his mouth and dragged it forward, allowing our primitive brains to fill in the visual gaps. Oh my god, it went through his entire face. So while it looked like an act of self-mutilation, it was an ingeniously camouflaged example of misdirection and mime choreography. Alright, enough body horror for now. Let's move on to something less gag-inducing with Smoothini's number 5 most awesome illusion, the mouth reproduction blizzard. This effect had AGT's audience completely amazed when Smoothini unleashed an endless horizontal avalanche of playing cards from his mouth. The full routine basically plays out like this. First, Smoothini overtly shows his mouth is completely empty by opening wide and doing that cheesy "nothing up my sleeves" patter we all know and love. Once the baseline for normalcy is set, the madness begins. He'll start by reaching fingers into his lips and suddenly fling out an initial small flurry of cards, maybe a dozen or so streaming horizontally, at first like some cough splatter. But before you can even think, there has to be some kind of trapdoor in play. Boom! The entire front row gets slapped by a horizontal tsunami of cards projectile vomiting from Smoothini's mouth. And just when you think, okay, no way you can top that, Smoothini somehow locks eyes with you while continuing to spit out more cards. So how was he able to pull that off? Here's the scoop. Those cards were actually stashed in his palm the entire time, hidden from view. With some subtle misdirection by waving his other hand around, he's able to seamlessly stuff some of the cards into his mouth unnoticed. When he whips his hands out, he lets them slide out naturally, giving the illusion that they came from his mouth. The real trick is the immaculate timing and the selling of the illusion. Anyway, moving right along to the number 4 most visually inconceivable Smoothini illusion on my hit list, we've got his flat-out reality-warping Treasury Seal Transposition Act. This is an insane money trick that will make you look twice. Rumor has it that the Illuminati even tried recruiting him on the spot. For anyone who missed the act, it plays out as such. Smoothini will borrow an ordinary dollar bill from the judge or random audience member. He'll make a huge plume out of overtly displaying the bill on both sides, nonchalantly pointing out the genuine U.S. federal seal iconography printed on the standard location in the upper quadrant. After establishing this visual baseline, Smoothini then proceeds to literally unmake reality by causing that same federal seal to dislodge from the original position and migrate across the entire width of the bill to the opposite end. When he finally hands the dollar bill back to the judge or volunteer, it's undeniably their original bill. How is that possible? Adding to the nuclear mind splash was the fact that this critical transposition was achieved with nothing more than Smoothini's 2 hands. No trapdoors, no hired gimmicks, no fancy pyrotechnics or camera trickery. So how did Smoothini make all the crazy stuff happen? Well, it's all about using a gimmicked bill. Smoothini's $1 bill had that seal already printed on both ends. The original seal was just attached by a magnet, allowing him to easily slide it around. By craftily folding and obscuring parts of the bill, he's able to hide that duplicated seal until the big reveal. Some monetary misdirection at its finest. Now let's move on to one of Smoothini's most iconic illusions ever at number 3. Smoothini plucked cards straight out of thin air. In this trick, he simply waves his hand through the air and boom, playing cards appear. It's enough to make you question reality. The key is in all that superb sleight of hand. Smoothini actually starts with the card loaded behind his palm and fingers. With surgical precision and tons of practice, he's able to transfer it back and forth from the front and back of his hand, all while never exposing it. The exaggerated arm movements misdirect your eye as the switch happens in the blink of an eye. By the time the card materialized, you've already missed the trick. Hitting number 2, we have another mind-bending money maneuver. Smoothini gathers some $1 bills, places them in the judge's hand, and with a literal tap, they've transformed into $100 bills. This one is all about the setup. If you look closely, Smoothini actually has the $100 bills and $1 bills separated into 2 stacks in the judge's palm initially. That tap just gives him cover to ditch the $1 stack, leaving only the hundreds behind. Such a brilliant bargain from the ghetto Houdini. Our next and final trick, we have Smoothini's German salt trick, coming in at number 1. In this trick, he is seen scooping up handfuls of ordinary table salt, having it dissolve right through his fingers, only to reappear moments later. So what's the secret ingredient? A tiny thumb tip that Smoothini wears, you guessed it, on his thumb. As he cups his hands together, he's able to slip off the thumb tip, trapping the salt inside it while his palm appears empty. Then he just has to repocket the thumb tip, resalt his hands, and pull it out again to make the salt rematerialize. He repeats this cyclical dummy switch over and over for continuous amazement. There you have it, guys, the secrets to Smoothini's most iconic tricks revealed. He may be the ghetto Houdini, but now you know how he works his real-life magic. Which mind-blowing illusion was your favorite? Let us know in the comments section down below. Also, don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe to the channel for more great magic content. Thanks for watching.